Hello and welcome to the Snap UK for all the news and views of the NFL from the other side of the Atlantic. We are back with a full complement this week as we hurtle quickly towards our mock draft next week and the slightly less important fixture of the draft itself. This week I am joined by Jim, John, Griff and the return of 4th and Inches. I am not the United Kingdom's Premier Kirk Cousins apologist, but I am Gilo, and this is a Snap UK. So, firstly, the news. So, we'll start with the fact that Denzel Ward has signed a mega deal, as the Browns have not only reset the quarterback market, but also the cornerback market in the same off-season. Ward gets a 5-year, $100 million extension. The new deal actually lowers his cap hit and his base salary for this year. What do we think, boys? Will it help them bring back Clowney or Jarvis Landry? I don't think Landry wants to come back, though. So,
Well, I think they need something, don't they? Because their number one receiver is DPJ at the minute, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Donovan Peoples-Jones, yeah, DPJ. It could be an attempt to get Landry back, but like you say, he doesn't seem overly keen. Point is, it gives them room to manoeuvre further down the line in free agency.
You're paying that much guaranteed money to Deshaun Watson. I want him doing everything. Fuck the receivers.
He probably would.
Yeah.
Sorry, John, I feel I stole your joke there.
Oh, I jumped in right.
it was the people on the receiving end that weren't happy, though.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I don't know about Clowney. He always turns up somewhere getting paid good money.
Always at the last minute, though.
Yeah, but this feels like the Browns were just creating enough room for themselves post-draft to add some final pieces to the mix. Like you say, the receiver room is a bit thin, but the rest of the team is pretty loaded. There's going to be very few excuses, bearing in mind that Deshaun Watson is supposed to be a top 5 quarterback. Donovan Peoples-Jones is not the worst receiver in the league. I can't even remember who the rest of the receiving group is, if I'm honest. But he's going to have to, make goals with what he's got, I think.
Well, the thing
You're actually having to Google their receivers.
Yeah, because it's some terrible names.
The thing is, with Deshaun Watson, we've never seen Deshaun Watson with a number one, running back or a top 5 running back like Nick Chubb either.
No.
They have got Amari Cooper.
Yeah, they
did sign
they took
Amari
Cooper from the Cowboys. Yeah,
We all forgot that.
No, there wasn't.
and
one
there is a
person who
draft
was
to come up. You just take another young wide receiver
Yeah,
in the
see,
second
if
or
Amari
third round.
Cooper's your number 1, DPJ's your number 2, you go and pick up at least one in the class. Then
After those two, it's a bit.
who's the tight end now?
Njoku.
Count Dooku, because
Yeah,
Austin
they
Hooper
tagged
got
him, didn't they?
The franchise tag, yeah. Austin Hooper's gone.
Yeah. See, I think that's a good move because I think they were trying to use Hooper and Count Dooku, and it didn't work. You need to pick one of the two of them and let them be in every package. And for me, they've retained the right one.
I think you have left off another former Browns wide receiver off this in terms of Beckham. Like, he's still not signed anywhere, and Beckham had an issue with Browns because of Baker Mayfield. Like, that was
He did, but he's not going back to Cleveland.
That relationship is broken.
I don't know.
No, I'm sorry. He's going to sign for the Rams, isn't he?
No, maybe. I think he's going to the Colts myself.
You think everyone's going to the Colts this season?
I think a lot of people are going to the Colts. I'm nailing it now. My Colts are going to be my outside pick for the Super Bowl. That team looks
They're a contender.
Awesome. They're more than a contender.
Everyone's a contender, Gary, at this point.
Right now.
Right now, everyone could get into the playoffs.
I don't think that's true.
Anyone.
Except,
I literally
except
don't
maybe
think that's
the
true.
Jets and the Jags.
And the Giants.
Lions.
No, you're a contender right now.
No, the
Yeah,
Giants.
Lions.
So I think I agree with everyone else. I think Beckham to the Rams is it's a done deal in
It's
disguise.
as surefire thing as there is.
Because
isn't
Robert
it?
Woods left.
Yeah.
But they signed Allen Robinson.
True.
This is the thing. He's going to have his pick because he's just turned up and made an impact in 7 games and won a Super Bowl. So once he's rehabbed, he's going to have his pick of destinations.
Oh, we left off one that he's always touted to be going to. Patriots.
Yeah, does he strike you as someone Bill Belichick would want in the building? Like, he got burnt a little bit with...
Belichick has in the past signed some
Josh Gordon.
pretty random players.
Not Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon played very well for us. I was more thinking of
Antonio
Brown.
Brown.
Because
Chad Ochocinco.
Belichick did not want Brown there. But yeah, I mean, true.
But
We've had diva wide receivers before, and we could definitely do with it.
Yeah.
But
You could do with Michael Thomas. You just need
anyone.
Mac Jones throwing a 10-yard slant. Michael Thomas will feed off that whole season.
And Denzel Ward, well worth the money.
Back to Denzel Ward, yeah, well worth the money. I think Gary, you've said it numerous times. It's hard to find a good cornerback in this league, and he's a good cornerback. I think you have to pay him to keep him in the building.
It doesn't seem that expensive, does it? 20 million. I know it is for the position, but like for what they do,
I think it's going to be the going rate for cornerbacks.
The point is, as wide receivers get more money, which they are, then cornerbacks are going to have to get more money because you're expecting them to guard these massively high-profile wide receivers.
Everyone that could be a cornerback will just insist on being a wide receiver in college, won't they? Because they have a lot of the same skill set, don't they?
Yeah,
effectively.
They can run fast, they can jump.
And they can catch, or, that's the idea.
Yeah, it's certainly the case. It's interesting that it's the Browns that are resetting the markets. Apparently, a lot of the owners are not happy with the Deshaun Watson deal and now this deal because they're all going to have to sump up guaranteed money. But every other major league sport in America does much more guarantee contracts than the NFL.
Oh, you look at like Mike Trout in the baseball.
Ridiculous baseball contract.
Yeah, $153 million or something like that.
Yeah, but wasn't it over like 15 years? Like
Yes.
They were going to pay him till he was nearly 50.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's how they do it. They just keep pushing the money down the road.
The Supermaxes in the NBA, you're right, they're vile.
Well, it's big. They only need 6 players, don't they? So it's a bit easier. Okay, so staying with the cornerbacks. So Stephon Gilmore breaks Michael's heart. Signed for the Colts.
We've got Malcolm Butler. We'll be fine.
Their defense gets stronger again. And I think they needed a corner, didn't they? Definitely in Indy.
It's an upgrade on Rock Sin.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. He's gone. So they've upgraded there. They've upgraded at quarterback. They need a wide receiver.
Upgraded the pass rush as well.
Yeah.
And
they need a wide receiver. And this takes me back to Beckham or, your pick of about 12 in the draft that could go in the first couple of rounds.
Exactly.
The Colts are, for me, going in the right direction. This is when you make a mistake and you pick the wrong quarterback, this is the model where you say, we've had 1 year and it was terrible and we can get away with it because we can replace them with someone better. The only downside to what the Colts are doing is probably every other year you're going to get a new quarterback because you've had Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, now Matt Ryan. Obviously, before that, you had Brissett, Andrew Luck. And there's no stability at that position, and it's very hard for teams to win without stability.
It's hard to go and get a franchise quarterback unless you properly tank, isn't it?
Yeah, but no one is talking about them as picking a quarterback in the draft, and I don't know why, because they don't have their quarterback of the future.
They haven't got that much draft capital. Remember, a lot of their picks have gone because they have traded for Carson Wentz, that first-round pick for the Eagles.
But there's going to be...
They had to kind of give up picks to get Matt Ryan.
Yeah, but there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks that are touted as first-rounders this year that will not go in the first round. And the Colts then should be looking to pick up a Matt Corral or whoever it might be, a Kenny Pickett, who doesn't necessarily go in.
Yes, he can.
Thank you. Because one of these 5 prospects, at least, is not going to go in the first round.
But Matt Ryan's going to be good for 2 years, 3 years.
I would have thought so. They're going to keep him upright there, but they've got to have a plan for the future.
Yeah, at some point, they're going to have to move up in a draft, aren't they? That's the way they're going to do it. Or take someone like Kyler Murray, who I do not think is going to be playing for the Cardinals.
Well, I was gonna bring that up as well, but I think
it's not on our running order, I don't think. But that's becoming clearer and clearer.
He's not reporting
that's a big risk.
He's not reporting to camp, and he's already said he will not be playing this season on the deal he's currently structured on. Now, it just comes down to whether or not they believe he is the quarterback for the next 5, 6, or 7 years. I'm not 100% sold, but of all the quarterbacks whose contracts are coming up, I mean,
what annoys me about
what they're going to replace him with?
What annoys me about this is that Kyler's beef isn't really with the Cardinals; it's with the combined bargaining agreement and the way that they've set out contracts. The way that first round contracts are set out is you've got 3 years before you can start on a new contract. But they don't have to offer you a new contract. You've got another year after that. Then you've got a 5th year option. Then you could franchise tag him. So there's potentially 3 extra years that they could keep him on a reasonable contract.
But his deal this year is $5 million.
Yes, going to say it's 4 point something million.
But that's not the Cardinals' fault. They're just playing the game.
And it's not Kyler's fault.
No.
But the point is they need to make the decision, a bit like the Browns didn't do. Like, is this our guy? And they need to make a decision now.
All I would say is he got selected in the baseball draft and the NFL draft, and he knew how it worked.
Yeah.
So
he was the 8th overall pick in the baseball draft.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. So he knows how this works. Like,
is he a top 10 quarterback?
No. I'd say just.
He can be.
I'd say he's top half.
Yeah.
And maybe getting to that 12, 13 sort of area.
He has the same problem as Carson Wentz, which is people don't want to play with him.
And that's an issue.
And look how that's gone.
And look at him sulking on the sidelines in the playoffs last year. Like, it's a bad attitude. Josh Rosen's another example
I think
of a bad attitude.
when it comes down to talent alone, he is definitely a top 10 quarterback.
If the Cardinals, and they won't do this, but this was an interesting exercise in my head, if the Cardinals got Jimmy G and brought him into the building, which of those two quarterbacks would have the better results on the field over a 17-game season?
Kyler Murray, because the team is more built for Kyler Murray currently.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. However, I think you'd get an extra 10% out of half the players on the team with Jimmy G, because that is how Jimmy G wins. Everybody wants to play. All he does is win. I say this every time. Yeah. And I am your Jimmy G apologist, because he does win all the time. And I don't think they're that far apart. So for considerably less money, you might lose one or two more games in a season.
You look at me like
that is utter shite.
They are far apart in terms of genuine natural
skill set. Yeah,
skill set. Completely agree. Kyler Murray is much better than Jimmy G. No argument there. But Jimmy G's the better team guy. He gets more out of the team around him just by being a good
how many
guy,
wins extra is Kyler worth over Jimmy G? 2 in a season?
2 or 3, yeah.
Right? But if you're getting better play out of everybody else, you offset at least one of those, and you're going to save half the money or more, so you can bring in other players.
Hey John, you see what they're doing here? They're talking about teams that have 2 good quarterbacks. Remember when we played Jake Fromm this season?
Jake from racism. Here.
I'm just about to say there is an MVP coming up who his contract is expiring at the end of the year, and he has shown... he's basically made it very clear he's going to go where the money is.
Who's this? Lamar.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's not. He's the exact opposite of Matt Ryan, but
he's also the opposite of Kyler Murray in that he's basically said, "We're going to talk at some point. I ain't going to make a fuss. I'm here to play, and then somebody will offer me some money."
As a negotiator, considering he's his own agent, and
that's
a lot, Kyler Murray is being led by some agents as well.
Yeah.
Lamar is playing this to an absolute fucking T.
And
he's going to get paid.
He will get paid by the Ravens. They will pay him.
By the Ravens, but I'm just saying, if you can, there is an MVP, former MVP coming up at the end of the year who, you could try and outbid.
That's true. A quick vocal show of hands. Who would you take, Lamar or Kyler, for your next 4 years?
Lamar.
Kyler.
I'd take Lamar.
I think it's a really similar skill set, and I think Kyle's
Come on, we're fit.
better.
So someone say 50-50. No, it's I would.
Off the fence, John. Off the fence.
Come on, John.
If there's any justice in the world, John.
Kyler's got the better arm.
Yeah, he
Kyler's
has
got the arm.
Absolutely. But I think Lamar, again, coming back to that point around Jimmy G, I think Lamar will get more out of the teammates around him just by being a better leader. And it's quarterback. You're meant to be the leader of the team, and I don't think Kyler is.
As well, you can save money because you don't have to pay wide receivers. just give him some tight ends. You'll be fine.
So Aaron Rodgers got a Easter present with Sammy Watkins finally signing for the Packers. It's not on the running order. I've added some extra bits that John's missed out.
I've gone blind for
so Sammy Watkins.
All that alone time had caught up.
John's added it. He forgot about Kyler Murray being a dick.
Yeah,
but he's added that.
This is big news only in so much as
he's got someone to throw to.
He's got someone to throw to. Sammy Watkins hasn't eclipsed 700 yards in a season.
No.
This is a problem. Because
he was a first-round third
overall pick. Yeah. Third overall pick for the Bills in 2014.
But you got to remember, that was an awful Bills team he joined.
It was, yeah.
And he's still quite young.
He's only 29.
29,
yeah,
sorry.
29 now.
He's been around forever.
29 this year.
Yeah, he's been around forever. I think it was 2014 he was picked.
Yeah, feels like it.
And he moved to the Chiefs and he wasn't the focus there. This is the opportunity for him to really be wide receiver 1.
Oh, I don't think so.
Randall Cobb and Sammy Watkins put fear into the heart of people 6 years ago.
But this is going to be the year that they actually do draft a wide receiver.
I think they might pick 2. I really do.
I think they'll pick 2 throughout the whole draft, but I think it's 1 in the first round at least.
Forgetting the power of Alan Lazard.
It's very easy to forget the power of Alan Lazard. It's just you said the Browns. We were struggling to think of their wide receiver room. Then you remember Amari Cooper's there. There are few worse wide receiver top 3s on any team than the Packers, and yet you've just spent all your money on the guy who needs to throw to these people, and he doesn't. We know he doesn't trust a lot of wide receivers. It's an odd move.
I think this Easter we're going to see the rebirth of Lazarus. I'm sorry, that was terrible.
You know when you weren't here last week, we did not miss that. There was no thumbing in of terrible jokes.
No.
I'm going to leave now.
Well, last week we mentioned Brandon Cooks, whatever, and
Re-signing for the Texans.
re-signing for the Texans.
Who would have been a great receiver for the Packers.
He's a bit too much like Cobb, though, isn't he?
So, but when
a shed load faster.
Sammy Watkins was he was replaced by Cooks in Rams. Cooks got twice the yardage, the same amount of games from basically the same quarterback, same scheme. He got 500 and something yards. Cooks got 1,200.
Sammy Watkins only turns up one game in 3. That's the problem, basically. It's been the same when he's been at the Chiefs. There's been 4 or 5 games each season where you think, Sammy Watkins is on the field.
I think now he's just a name, isn't he? He's a name because we know him from he was a first-round pick. He's been around to a lot of big teams. Did he win a Super Bowl with the Chiefs? Yep. And he's just a big name now. But yeah, you're right. What's he actually done recently?
He's okay, isn't he?
Yeah, he's okay.
He's building that, that wide receiver room, which has nothing.
It's going to be pretty cheap. It's only his base salary is 1.1 million.
Yeah, it's really cheap.
So it's a cheap.
It's just an extra piece, isn't it? So talking about other corners, so Kelvin Joseph, the Dallas Cowboy cornerback, is not facing charges after he was a passenger in a car where shots were fired at a 20-year-old. Cameron Ray, apparently, was that his name?
Yeah.
Who was killed. Joseph was questioned about the incident where 2 men have been arrested. He still faces an investigation from the NFL against their personal conduct policy. So I think he claimed that he had no knowledge that anyone had a gun or this was going to happen. In America, you can get charged for loads of shit if you're just there and you don't do nothing.
This is one of those cases of, look, he might not have known there's a gun in the car. Fair play. That's all right. You believe that. But you're surrounding yourselves with people who have that potential, and they do have that potential because they actually did it. Stop being an idiot. Surround yourself with people who are sensible. You're cornerback for the Dallas Cowboys, the NFL. You've got the world in front of you. You're going to get a big pay pack because we just said cornerbacks are getting paid more money, and you're just throwing that all into jeopardy by a really poor choice of who you're going to hang out with at the weekend.
Yeah. But this is symptomatic of where a lot of these players come from, isn't it? They come from tough backgrounds, and they're their family, their friends, like not everyone, obviously, it is diverse, but, there is the opportunity for a number of players. Do you think the NFL will come down hard on him? They hate gun stuff, don't they, the NFL?
I don't think they'll come down hard on him, but I think there'll be some sort of retribution for it, yeah.
I always remember Zeke got banned 6 games for exposing a girl's breasts, and this guy's been involved in a shooting. They're probably...
We'd all rather see breasts than a shooting.
Well, I'm just saying, it needs to be a consistent approach. I generally think when people get shot and die, it's probably worth...
it's pretty bad, isn't it?
Probably worth a ban.
Yeah.
When somebody died, here's a 4-game penalty feels a bit...
Yeah.
Just a bit sombering, really.
But yeah. Should we move on?
Yeah, cheers, John. Thanks. So, Commander's Corner of the podcast now.
I love that.
We do like to speak about the Commanders every week. We're in the continuing saga between the Commanders' ownership and various parts of the NFL, be it fellow owners or fans. Washington have written a letter to the Federal Trade Commission now, denying any suggestion of financial malpractice, including 3 affidavits from high-ranking liars. And asking them not to investigate their lies after the Oversight Committee last week had asked them to look into the organisation potentially keeping 2 sets of books to hide revenue. Now, they've obviously been taking some sort of advice from Boris Johnson, but...
That's right. There's an independent investigation that said there's some dodgy stuff going on here. This needs to be investigated further. And Washington have gone,
no.
All bullshit, no need to investigate, all clean here. After everything that's happened with the Washington franchise over the last 3-4 years, who are you going to believe? Do they really think that...
I don't think Daniel Snyder and his team have given us any reason to disbelieve them, personally.
Maybe they were unaware of all of the regulations involved. They weren't sure that birthday cakes were allowed to be had in the workplace. Am I still talking about Boris Johnson?
What a buffoon. I've got nothing. Dan Snyder and Boris Johnson are a bit too similar.
They are so similar.
Their leadership is extremely lacking. Look, no one believes that the Commanders haven't done something wrong. You're better off saying, yeah, come and investigate and see what happens, because it's going to happen anyway, so you might as well comply. Same with Boris, really.
Why doesn't he just put it up for sale now? I don't understand why he's going
Worth
through
a
all
lot
this.
of money.
10
Yeah, but he
Downing
can
Street
get-
or Washington. Sorry.
But he can get paid a lot of money, can't he? Just take the
Got
money.
a lot of money.
No, he bought it on leverage. He's still paying for the Washington franchise is paying for their own purchase.
Sounds like the Glazers.
It's like how the Glazers bought Man United,
and that's worked out well.
because I think he had to pay $700 million for the franchise. Dan Schneider's worth $300 million, so he bought the franchise, and then the franchise is paying for itself. So
How is that legal?
So I think it's so confusing for him to sell it. Like, unless someone forces him to do it, he won't do
But
it.
even if he does sell it, I think the Panthers are the last franchise to be sold. I think they went for something like 2.2 billion. Like, he's still going to make his money back, pay off any debts, and then some.
The problem that Washington have got is their stadium needs a complete revamp. So whoever takes them on is probably going to be told, you've got to do something with the stadium.
Oh, but you see what Buffalo have done with their stadium,
Yeah.
where it's pretty much go to Maryland State and go, we need a new stadium, thanks.
But yeah,
Here's
but
900 million.
but after all this, everything that's happened, Daniel Snyder's not the person to go to the state and go, give me some taxpayer dollars to build a stadium.
Still think they're getting relocated.
I'm not sure they get relocated. I think
will.
he might get forced to sell.
There's such a historic franchise, and to take a franchise out of
So was San Diego.
Not
true.
to the same level.
So was Oakland.
Oh, but you,
Oakland was, yeah,
Right.
but they paid a lot of money to move Oakland.
Yeah, but they
What was a
the
punishment?
Raiders have got a history of moving around.
Yeah,
They've
yeah,
never
yeah.
been attached to one single city. It'd be like Buffalo leaving Buffalo.
And Washington have got a history of abject failure and legal issues.
Recent history.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
It's
gonna
still a
say.
history.
They were
80s and 90s
80s
they
and
were.
90s.
Yeah,
They were a
they were
bloody
massive,
good team. Yeah.
They were owned by KKK member George Marshall. It's quite a historic, long-running
Thank
history.
you. I like it when he climbs off the fence with backup facts. Thank you, John. Yeah, look, excuse me if I'm not impressed by anything they do. This franchise doesn't
not
deserve
either.
to be part of the
Sell
NFL.
it, but I don't think it will leave Washington.
this is still, we've said in the past about the Donald Sterling example of the league forcing sale. I can't see the NFL ever being that strong.
That is the problem. But maybe you can't keep bringing the game into disrepute and fleecing all the other owners. They are two things that people don't really like.
Yeah, Washington's a big sporting area in the US, though. You know, they've got a lot of big teams that I just don't see the NFL moving them. I can
Are
see
any
them.
of those teams any good?
Yeah,
Capitals
yeah,
are okay.
Capitals are okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
They've got
Okay.
a baseball team, haven't they, as well?
Yeah.
Wizards.
Wizards.
The NBA
The
team.
Wizards of the
Yeah.
NBA team, yeah, that's the only one I know.
Only because Michael Jordan played for them
Yeah.
about 5 minutes.
They're crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, but look, you know, I'm sure we'll keep seeing stuff come out over the summer, and it's going to be just depressing to talk about. Did anyone catch the Baker Mayfield on You Never Know podcast? I did not, because John wrote this script. But apparently, according to John, Baker Mayfield feels very disrespected.
Went to Baker Mayfield, to be fair.
Yeah, well, he's a dick, isn't he? And comes out of the pod sounding like the victim. Is this justified? No. Or more evidence of a player who still needs to mature if he wants to start in the league? Well, you've got my opinion. Over to you, boys.
Well, seeing as I wrote that bit, shall I basically, because I probably am the only one that's into it,
I've listened to it.
and but you come out of it and you think, well, he left Texas Tech because he felt victimized. He felt victimized at TCU.
Mm-hmm.
He felt victimized by Hugh Jackson, and we're all okay with that because no one likes Hugh Jackson. But he now feels victimized by the Browns. You know, he feels that they lied to him.
And the fans boo him.
The fans boo him. Literally,
Doesn't like that.
That was
I
the best
think
bit
he
of the podcast.
he
but-
needs to get rid of the persecution complex. I think.
What he
Did
uses-
say, did he? Did he say he wanted to go and stand behind people in their cubicles?
and boo them.
Yeah.
And to be fair, that was very funny. He motivates himself by feeling like he's persecuted. It doesn't work when you're getting paid however many millions and you're in all the adverts. You can't have that same And if you look at his career, you can see patches where he's been motivated and then patches where he's less motivated. And he perhaps carries that into his leadership style as well and doesn't really know. Like, he can motivate college players because he went and waved the flag or he planted the flag, didn't he?
In Ohio.
In Ohio. And, like, he could get players going, I've walked onto your team and we can go and win this. It doesn't work in the NFL because most of the players are better than him.
It's a slightly adolescent way of kind
Yeah.
of
He's not mature.
driving. No, he's not. I do kind of see where he's coming from, especially over the last few months where, all right, Browns win on Deshaun Watson, and then they weren't, and he was told, right, no, we're not going to trade you. You're our quarterback. And then, at the last minute, suddenly they got Deshaun Watson, and he's left there going, what the fuck? So I can see it from that point of view.
course.
I can see it from that point of view, and then they're like, well, now he wants to trade, and now they can't trade him because they know the value is through the floor because everyone knows that they're trying to trade him. But yeah, you're right. Before all that happened, we were still umming and ahhing about whether he's a franchise quarterback. Not because we don't think he's not talented. He has shown he's talented. But because of the disruption in the locker room with Beckham leaving, Jarvis Landry not wanting to be there anymore, other players kind of coming out and saying, it's shit.
So I hear all that, but does he not just open himself up to all of this stuff? Because
Yeah, he does. It wasn't
Matt
a very
Ryan,
mature thing
you
to
do all this shit out of Matt Ryan?
No one's ever
No.
challenged Matt Ryan.
No. Do you ever hear this shit out of Jimmy G? No. Do you ever hear this? Like, so many people, like, it's part and parcel of getting paid all that money. So just shut up and get on with it. Like, seriously,
it's fair.
there's
I'm with
sports
Gary.
people all around the world, right, that get abused, like... I remember watching Newcastle versus Stevenage, and like, it was like Joey Barton just got destroyed about his brother being in prison for murdering someone. Like, it's part of it. Like, it shouldn't be if
Keep
you
it light,
if you
Gary.
want.
Keep it light.
No, but the point is, it's people say horrific things, and there's got to be a line. But these people pay you wages, and if you're shit, they can tell you.
Yeah.
So stop being shit.
Yeah, I think what he's saying is they said there's no need for you to seek a trade because we're not in on Deshaun Watson,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden they were.
I think that's where the big
disrespect.
I
That's where the
completely agree
disrespect
with
comes
you.
in.
Is that not just business? Is that
Yeah,
not just how-
exactly. That
It
is
is.
business. He needs to just bide his time. Somebody will get injured, and when somebody gets injured, he is top of the
He goes
market.
to the Seahawks, isn't he? Everyone's talking about it.
Panthers
apparently,
now. It could be a shootout between him and Darnold.
Oh, Darnold would have that in a
and
heartbeat.
I must admit, I think Darnold might win it as well.
He's the more mature.
He's had a
quarterback.
year in the system.
Yeah.
Don't forget, start of last season, Darnold had rushed for like 8 touchdowns in 5 games or something. Like, he's got talent too.
And they haven't lied to him. When he handed in a trade request, where was what Watson had said he wasn't going to it was obvious that they were interested, and they turned it down because they weren't going to get Watson. Watson changed his mind, and the market...
Hang on. No, why did Watson change his mind? Because
A lot of money.
The Browns came in with a bigger offer. So yeah, I think your point.
But they've not lied to him. In a way,
I'm not sure I agree with that.
But
They've played business, and
if that's
allowed.
it's business, and as well, if what they're saying is, they might be thinking, well, we went for Watson, and then Mayfield hands in a trade request, and they might think, well, we're not going to say no because we don't have Watson signed yet, but we know that our main argument is this guy's not mature enough, and he's just handed us the evidence that this is the case on a plate. Let's go out and get Watson and make it, let's up the money. I mean, I know no one's challenged Ryan, but Matt Ryan is in exactly the same position because they've both lost their job because of Deshaun Watson.
Matt Ryan said nothing.
Matt
He
Ryan
just quietly moved.
said nothing.
Went to the Colts.
Went to the Colts, improved his position. Mayfield is on the sidelines.
And Baker Mayfield, let's not be silly about this, had Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. Like,
I'm
you can just
completely
go on
agree.
and on and on,
I
right?
completely agree
And
with
I
you.
must
What
have
I'm
just
saying
missed
is-
them getting to the Super Bowl. Maybe that happened in an ulterior time.
I'm not
and,
defending
like,
the guy.
They,
I'm
they got
saying
to the
that
playoffs once.
He was lied to, though.
They made the playoffs once whilst he was there. So
And you
he's
can
not
say-
delivered,
yeah,
is
but
he?
You can say it's business. All I'm saying is I can understand where he's coming from over the last few months where he's saying he's being the victim. Because he has been screwed over. And maybe he deserved it, maybe he didn't. But from his point of view, he's been screwed over.
Do you know the most telling thing about the whole Baker Mayfield issue is if the Texans had wanted him, they could have just asked for him to be chucked into the deal.
Yeah.
And they didn't want him. And if they don't think he's an upgrade on Davis Mills, then Why do the Seahawks think he's an upgrade on Drew Lock?
Yeah.
The problem is, right, if
Have you
you
seen Drew Lock?
Yeah, but this is my point.
if you choose to be like Baker Mayfield chooses to be in public, like he puts it all out there, doesn't he? Like his character, and sees it as his brand and adverts and whatever else. If you do that, then you become polarizing, and you've got to be prepared that some people are going to dislike you. Like if you don't want people to have an opinion about you, just go out and throw the ball.
Yeah, I agree. I entirely
Making me
agree.
angry.
I don't actually mind the Baker brand because I think players should be who they are. Look, Aaron Rodgers has made a success out of being Aaron Rodgers, even though we all sit at this table and say he's a dick.
Yeah, but that's because he's been
Successful.
to multiple championship games and lost to the Niners.
And the Super Bowl that one time. Yeah. So Baker's got a lot more winning to do to get away with the character that he wants to
That's
be.
my point.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, well, I think that's enough on Baker before we all fall out. So, time to start looking forward to the draft now. So, Jim is our resident colleague.
I had no warning about this, by the way.
Who does actually look at the talent.
Jim's the only one of us who sits at home long enough in the day to look at all the draft stock.
What happens is, a week before our mock draft, we get given our teams, and then the rest of us start looking into who might be coming out of the draft based on some information Jim provides us with normally. But Jim, who have we got coming out of the draft we need to look out for?
Lots of players.
Top 10. Come on, what are your top 10?
Oh, no, I didn't think that. But
Is that a bit harsh, is it?
just a slight smattering, because I've also got a few who.
Slight smattering, that's why Paul wasn't here last week.
That was a slight.
It wasn't slight.
I don't mean to take Jim that long to rattle off 10.
I mean,
coming out of the
just
draft.
while we're on the
Good.
point, 0
I'm
out of
in
10
charge,
would not
John,
recommend
today.
norovirus.
10, Jim. Give me 10 names. Fuck John.
10 names.
You've
10
got
names coming out of the draft.
You've got a handful of quarterbacks that some of which will go in the first round, even though none of them are first round.
Have you suddenly grown a foot?
Oh, I'm just helping him.
Only a foot?
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah. Right. There is no star talent in this draft.
No.
This is why there
At all.
At all. Like, I think you can look through this draft, and there's probably two players you can get genuinely excited about: Aiden Hutchinson, the edge rusher from Michigan, and Kyle Hamilton, the safety from Notre Dame. Now, Kyle Hamilton will get drafted probably outside the top 10 because he's a safety. Aiden Hutchinson will probably go number one to the Jags. After that, it's a genuine crapshoot. Like, there's a lot of good talent, but there's not a lot of kind of absolute star talent. Where there is star talent, there's question marks. Like Derek Stingley, the cornerback, had an amazing 2019 for LSU, and then just fell off the cliff. Like, he just wasn't very good. He could be a brilliant cornerback, but he's got injury issues. He had a year where he just didn't perform, so there's question marks about him. At tackle, Evan Neal, Ikem Ekwonu.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, no. Two absolute standout tackles could go to each of the New York teams depending on how this goes. Edge rush, Kayvon Thibodeau, the edge rusher from Oregon.
He's getting a lot of press, isn't he?
So I reckon he probably came into this year at the start of 2021 season as consensus. He's going to be the number one pick.
Yeah.
He's had an average season, and then there's loads of question marks about his desire to play football. Like, is he in it for the long term? Is football like the number one thing? And this is like loads of stuff like this came out about Trevor Lawrence last year, and it's just the way that the machine of the NFL draft and the media that follows the draft and reports on it works. Chances are he'll definitely go top 10. If he fell out of the top 10, if he fell out of the top 5, it would be a bit of an issue, I think. But again, a good player. There is good offensive line depth. We mentioned the two tackles. There are other tackles available. Charles Cross is a great tackle. Trevor Penning is another one that's getting a lot of buzz. Each of those can go in the top 10.
Talk to me about the wide receivers, James, because there's some good wide receivers.
You've only got 4 names left. I've counted 6 so far.
Jesus, I'm just going to throw in names. Wide receivers, Jameson Williams would be the top wide receiver had he not torn his ACL in the championship game. Still could go very high, though. He is big, he's fast, could reasonably go in the top 10. I really like Christian Watson from North Dakota State, not getting a lot of buzz. He is 6'4" and runs a 4.36 40. So he's big and he's fast.
Just like me.
you're fast.
So Jim's got him on his list for the mock draft next week.
Yeah, now giving all away.
All of his research away. Why do you think there's segments in it?
Two Ohio State wide receivers, Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. Flip a coin. That's the 10. Flip a coin about where they go.
It's like having Daniel Jeremiah on, isn't it? It's just the same.
Exactly.
To be fair, he could just make up names here, and I'd be like, yeah.
You'd still pick none of them.
Okay, Paul's picked Hakeem Butler.
Hang on, wait. Two linebackers.
I'll draft you.
Jim wants Jim wants a couple more.
Two linebackers, Devin Lloyd and Nakobe Dean. Probably one of them will go to the Patriots. Who? Nakobe Dean.
We need to replace Donta Hightower.
Oh.
I didn't hear any running backs mentioned there.
No, there will be
there is
a running
one
back
running back in the first round.
If there is one running back in the
Is it
first round,
Hall?
it will be a shock.
Very late if it comes.
No, I can't.
No, I can't think of his name.
Bryce Hall.
Bryce Hall. He'd be the only first round one for me.
Honestly, if that happens, that will be a shock.
John's got notes and is desperate to
By the
talk.
way, I didn't mention any quarterbacks there, so work away on the quarterback.
I've got some notes for Paul to take note of here.
These are the people with the funny names.
These are the more interesting ones.
I'm all ears.
Maybe outside the first round.
Should we do this whilst we're not recording?
No. This isn't funny names. These are just.
Did you realise next week's mock draft that we're doing, the snap draft, I'm renaming the Will Greer commemorative massive man lottery in honour of Paul.
So I've got as interesting people. David Falale. He's a Minnesota offensive tackle. He's 6'9". He's Australian. A scout found him in a gym working out. He was rehabbing an injury. He is 387 pounds. Yeah,
Didn't work that hard in the gym, did he?
he's 6'9". He is a massive human being.
Sounds like your kind of man.
The scouts actually say he might be too big to be a tackle.
The problem is some of these massive guys, they just get injured too much.
And you've still got to be able to move. That's the thing.
He might not be able to get down against smaller defensive players. But my favourite thing, he wears a XXXXXXXL shirt.
I like the fact that no one saw it, but John had to count the number of X's
It's
on
an
his fingers
8XL shirt.
I have to do the same when I buy condoms.
Yeah, but
to use as sleeping bags. Or
you're stuffing. Carson Strong, a quarterback, is the best drop back passer in the thing. He's from Nevada. He also has 2 knee injuries going into it, and he is, by a scouting report I saw, completely immobile.
Yeah, what was that? Was it
Completely
Pat,
immobile.
Was it Pat White? Was that the guy that tore both ACLs in college? And he put up like record college numbers back in the early 90s. Like he threw for 50,000 yards in 4 college seasons, but couldn't get drafted because he had no knees.
Makes sense.
Like he literally couldn't run.
At one point, very early in the whole
Leslie
media
King.
around the draft, Carson Strong was considered
Carson Strong is
as
the
good a
deadly king of
quarterback
the
as
NFL.
as the rest of the quarterbacks.
Yeah, he has 2 knee surgeries in the last 2 years. Best passer, but yeah, can't move. If Bill Belichick's listening, he's about to have a wet dream. Matt Araiza, he's a punter. They reckon he could go in the second round. There's been 10 in the history of college football. There have been 10 80-plus yard punts. He's provided 2 of them in the last year.
Yep, we'll have him.
But as well as that, it's not just length. He's got incredible control over his length. Which
It is important. You do have to have some incredible. Otherwise, you'll have someone's eye out.
God, John's onto a second page.
He's got big writing.
And as well, just mentioning Jordan Davis from Georgia, he was the standout from the combine because basically, for a man over 341 pounds, he is fast as fuck. But
Is that in the scouting report?
he's from Georgia as well. So the scouts are like, well, why doesn't he play third downs? And it's because he destroys players on the first and second down. So they don't need him on the third down. He played 18% of third downs because he's a destroyer. But, you know what scouts like. They might think that's a bit weird. So he might not get an early pick. But people to look out for.
Another one to look out for. James Cook, running back out of Georgia. Dalvin Cook's little brother.
Oh, nice.
Good heritage.
Okay, well, we're going to take a break and regroup, so we will see you on the other side. Okay, so welcome back. The draft is really close now, and whilst we all love the draft here, it's still the biggest gambles on talent in sport, and not every first-round pick is a success. Some of the players are hits, combining Super Bowl rings with era-defining contracts. Some guys have decent careers, while a select few are absolute busts. So what we're going to do is we're going to go around the table and we're going to go through some examples of these NFL draft busts. Be it because we just thought they were going to be way better than they turned out to be, circumstances like playing for the Jets, or an inability to not be a total dickhead. So, boys, we'll start with Mr. Farrow.
Okay.
There's two of those.
I'm happy to start.
So we'll start with Paul. Who you got?
I'm going to go to the 2014 NFL Draft.
Oh, yeah, I should say in the last 10 years we're saying, boys, aren't we?
That's right. That's the instructions we were given, and I'm going to the 2014 draft with pick number 8. The Cleveland Browns selected Justin Gilbert, who was a cornerback. Now, the other cornerbacks drafted in the 2014 draft in the first round, you've got Kyle Fuller, the All-Pro and 2-time Pro Bowler, was at the Bears for years. You've got Bradley Roby, who's at the Broncos for years. You've got Jason Verrett, who has no knees and turned up in San Francisco last year, but was decent.
That's where cornerbacks go to die.
Yeah, the cornerback retirement home in the Bay. But before that, he was decent for the Chargers before he had his knee injury. So there was some really good talent that came out of the 2014 draft at cornerback. The first one picked was Justin Gilbert. He was a standout at OSU. He was a 4-star recruit going into college. He looked like he had everything. Apart from the one thing he didn't have, and I think one of the best things I can do is describe. So when he was released from his team after the Browns, which I'll get to, Joe Thomas tweeted that if you don't like football, it doesn't matter how talented you are. Your star will burn out quick. So this is a guy who kept being late to practice and got to a point where he just didn't love the game. And seeing that they said he needed to stop acting like a kid, he finished his rookie season. He only had 29 total tackles. He only had 1 interception his entire time in the NFL. And basically, yeah, when you have multiple people on the Browns team of 2014 saying how childish you are, considering that dumpster fire.
Do you know what? I'm really interested to see how many Browns players make this list, because there's one I'm definitely expecting to come up from somewhere.
But the first selection I'd like to put forward for this is Justin Gilbert, because I think this was like the pre-Jeff Okudah. This was one of these standout cornerbacks in college who's just turned out to be a bag of dog shit. So I'm going with Justin Gilbert.
Okay.
It's a strong first entry.
Yeah.
It truly is.
I think we should move on to the other Farrow after that, because he looked very disappointed.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to say also the reason he left, he got moved, he got drafted. Got traded to the Steelers, and they found out he just wasn't talented enough, even at kick return. So he then was released, got a four-game ban for substance abuse, which was then extended to a season-long ban for substance abuse. Now the only thing he does on social media is criticise high school talent around his local area on social media.
I'm very similar, actually.
Okay, nice. John, who you got?
I'm going to stick at cornerback. So, 2013, Jets, D. Milliner.
Oh, this is a strong contender. He was poor.
9th overall pick. He lasted 3 years at the Jets. He got 3 career interceptions, and effectively he got injured. He sort of came from nowhere in his final college year. Had a great season, but got injured before the combine. And then, he never recovered. Only lasted 3 years in the league, and sadly, he's just a huge bust. I mean, as he seemed to have met both the injury and the going to a trash organisation part of his busts. But yeah, D. Milliner, I think is quite a big one.
Yeah, taking some of the research from this, because I actually did research this week, right? Taking some of the research from this, cornerback seems to be, for me, the biggest boom or bust draft pick you can make in the first round.
It often takes cornerbacks 2 years to get into the NFL pace. And so if they then don't mature very quickly after that point, they soon disappear out of the league. It's just how it works.
Okay. Mr. Green.
I'm going to take you all the way back to the 2012 NFL draft. So a running back who, in college, won a national championship twice in 2009, 2011 with Alabama. Was a unanimous All-American in 2011. Won the Doak Walker Award in 2011. Was an SEC Offensive Player of the Year in 2011. A two-time first-team All-SEC player in 2010 and 2011. And was generally considered a top pick. He was also taken by the Cleveland Browns.
There's going to be a little bit of a theme going on, I think, here.
And just a side note, I mean, I went through the last 10 years drafts, and the Browns and the Raiders feature quite a lot.
Yeah.
This particular player went third overall and was a running back, Trent Richardson, who had a couple of seasons in Cleveland, didn't do much, was subsequently traded to the Colts for a first-round pick.
It was only one season in Cleveland, wasn't
Was
it?
it?
Yeah.
I think he only lasted
Yeah,
one
just
season
17
in Cleveland.
games.
It was, yeah. One season in Cleveland, and then one season in Colts after another first-round pick. He then went to the Raiders, as is fitting, where he was only there on pre-season. He went to the Baltimore Ravens, didn't really make a meal there. Ended up in Canada with the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
So he knows Jeff.
Saskatchewan
Yep, he knows
Roughriders.
Jeff.
Know Jeff well.
And finished in, what league was that? It's the
AAF.
AAF, the Birmingham
Where-
Iron, where he actually
He was
played
really good
quite well.
because everyone else was like us.
Yeah.
Can I also say he didn't actually finish in the AAF
He went to Mexico.
because he went to Mexico.
He's still in Mexico
He
for
is.
Cadillos de Chihuahua.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Bless you.
So he's still going strong, but yeah,
Not
Trent
strong.
Richardson, considering where he was traded, where he was picked and then traded,
It wasn't a good look. And really,
draft bust.
that's when the...
From the dog pound to the Chihuahua.
Brilliant.
That is really where first-round running backs started to be seriously criticised because of what they had to give him and what his subsequent value was. He produced nothing.
Does anyone else want to throw Rashard Penny into the mix?
Well, he's just started to come good. Rashard Penny at the end of last season finally showed why he was rated so highly, and injuries are a thing. And this is the thing with this bust element. At what point do you say, well, injuries are
Unfortunate.
part of the player? Because my first selection would be RG3. RG3, so the cost for the Washington Redskins at the time to move from 6 to 2 was 2 future first rounders and that year's second rounder, as well as obviously the 2012 first rounder that they moved back. And he got, plus several other picks. He cost so much, and he was Rookie of the Year, got them into the playoffs, and never had a good season again. Because he got injured. Now, the
Such a
injury,
shame.
Yeah, the
What a
injury wasn't
shame.
his fault, and we've all watched him play, and we all thought, okay, this is going to be a good player. Even when he came back from injury, the problem with RG3 was he never learned how to play round his injury or how to prevent himself picking up further injuries.
Just slide, Robert, for fuck's sake, just
Yeah.
slide.
Now, for a guy who costs that much to effectively have, I think, 2 starting seasons with Washington,
Yep.
then be relegated to playing safety on the practice squad behind Kirk Cousins, who was taken in the 6th round that year. 4th round that year. Then to find himself traded to the Browns,
Yep.
where he started, I think, 3 games.
5 games.
There you go.
Played
5 games
We've
before he got
played in 5
It was 3 games, and he got injured. Then he came back later. He also had all his stuff stolen from the stadium. I seem to remember at the time, and eventually to spend 3 years as Lamar's backup at the Ravens. In that short time period, that's a massive bust for me. It may not all be his fault, but he certainly contributed to his own downfall.
Yeah, I looked at him, but and I was feeling possibly with Saquon. But for me, you can't, I find it hard to go they were a bust if they were the Rookie of the Year. And he took that Redskins team as as they were at that time, to the playoffs. He was electric that first year.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between, like it does say here, people who just haven't quite lived up to the hype and stuff. I wouldn't say Saquon's a bust. I think RG3.
If
for what you
Washington
paid
had
for him,
picked
that's
him
a
up
bust.
at 6, right? If they hadn't moved up and given up all that future capital, he wouldn't be a bust.
I don't know. I think the expectation is when you take a quarterback in the first round. Okay, and let's whittle it down. If you take a quarterback in the top 10,
Yeah.
the expectation is that they're a franchise quarterback and they're going to be there for 10 to 15 years. I think that's the expectation. I think if you would have taken this, if we would have gone back a bit further, I think the year that Cam Newton went, 2010,
11.
You look at the quarterbacks that went quite quickly after him, Blaine Gabbert,
Yep.
Christian Ponder, was Ryan Lockett that year as well?
Maybe.
Jake Locker.
Jake Locker.
Jake Lockett, sorry, thank you.
And they all
they're
failed.
busts.
They all failed. They're all
Because
busts.
I think they all definitely taken
Ponder
the top
was
15.
Ponder was 10. Locker was 8.
Yeah.
Gabbert was 12 or 13. They all failed.
All failures, really.
Basically, if you're taking in the first round, you've got to have some sort of talent. Gary, who do you want to nominate, by the way?
Well, I think Rosen needs to be in there, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's a good shout. So we all thought Rosen would have enough talent to at least play, even if out of the 5 that went in the first round that year, we didn't think he was the best. But it was the other side of the game, what we're now finding with Carson Wentz, for instance, that was his undoing. He wasn't prepared to be coached.
The two I was between, that I thought would come up, was Rosen, because we talk about it a lot, and then the other one was Johnny Manziel, Johnny Football.
Manziel is a good shout from the same year that Justin Gilbert went as
So
well.
the only reason I
in the
didn't
first
put Johnny
round.
Manziel on my list is because we all knew he was going to be a bust,
And then I also had Kevin White.
Yeah,
which is a great shout. He's on my list. Kevin,
393 yards.
yeah, I think he caught like 2 NFL touchdowns.
I'll trump you, Kevin White, for another first-round wide receiver taken by the 49ers in 2012, AJ Jenkins.
Wow, whatever happened to him?
Yeah, I think he had 2 catches for the 49ers.
I also thought Reuben Foster might have been on here as well.
I've got actually the Reuben Foster and Solomon Thomas.
Took them
from
both
that
in the same year,
That was
yeah.
John Lynch's first year.
John, you got any others to add?
Sticking in 2012, after Trent Richardson, Khalil Mack, he did all right. But then
The next one, yeah.
Justin Blackman,
Yeah, next on my list as well.
a great first year, 856 yards. He then had drug and alcohol problems. I think he got another 300 yards for the rest of his career. When the Browns tried to re-register him in 2016.
Yeah.
I know,
The Jaguars.
Jaguars even, sorry. I'm just got used to being the Browns. When the Jags tried to re-register him, the NFL wouldn't let them. And he has not been seen.
He's been on the
Everson.
commissioner's exempt list for nearly 10 years.
Yes. It's, for us, the 5th overall pick.
Yeah.
It's an absolute fucking garbage.
It's quite interesting looking at the different years. And it's all my personal opinion, was there were some years where it was like, okay, there's 1 or 2 complete busts. There's a lot of mediocrity, which I can't really say is a bust, but at least 2016 was a bad year. So
2012 sounds like it was a bad year as
2012
well.
was a pretty bad year as well.
2012, there were some great players in between the drops.
Yeah, I mean, 2012 you got Brandon Whedon for the Browns as well. 2016,
He of getting stuck under the massive flag Hall of Fame.
absolutely. 2016, we've mentioned Darren Lee already. Carl Joseph, safety for the Raiders,
Yeah.
done nothing.
No.
Corey Coleman, wide receiver for the
God.
Browns.
Corey Coleman.
Yeah, he should definitely be on there.
On the Chiefs roster.
Yeah,
Can I mention, when we're talking 2016, we do need to mention Roberto Aguayo.
Oh, next on my list. You're stealing my thunder here.
Second round pick. They
I thought we were
traded
only
up.
doing first rounds.
He's still a bust.
So from 2016, I had Josh Doxson.
Josh Doxson, Laquan Treadwell, which is taking a pick later.
Paxton Lynch.
Laquan Treadwell has made a career out of special teams.
I know, but it's not a first round wide receiver, is it? And Robert Kendici as well.
Hey, I've
Fell out of
got
a window.
a question about busts. Are there more quarterback busts than other positions? And if there are, is that just because you spend too much draft capital on them?
Yes. So the answer is you're quicker to call them a bust because effectively they have to perform immediately. That is pretty much how it works.
is now,
If you're
isn't it?
taking in
Yeah.
in the first 2 rounds, you pretty much expected to perform.
Yeah, you're expected to be on starting lineup effectively.
I mean, you're right by saying we were limiting this to predominantly the first round, but Roberto Aguero and there was one other second round, absolutely undeniable draft bust at quarterback. Anybody want to take a guess? Didn't play for the Jets.
Oh, Hackenberg.
Christian Hackenberg, second round quarterback, never started a game in the NFL, never played a game in the NFL.
Yeah. I also thought, as I was doing this exercise, that as we got closer to the current year we're in, that the list would be diminished because we couldn't make that decision.
No.
2020.
Yeah, there are some bad players.
Oh my God, Jeff Okudah. He's played 10 games in 2 seasons. We've got the famous duo of the Raiders, Henry Ruggs and Damon Arnett, no longer in the league.
Yeah, Henry Ruggs, that should have been in there, shouldn't it?
Damon Arnett was at the Chiefs.
Possibly, but
He might well have
well
moved there,
be,
but
yeah.
he's not doing it.
I think
The fact that you don't know exactly where he is.
Jalen Rager.
It's too early. Too early.
I'm all right. Jordan Love
I was waiting for Jordan Love to come up.
and Isaiah Wilson.
I thought he might bring up
Titans.
Jalen Hurts just to be a dick.
So Isaiah Wilson, the tackle for the Titans, got traded to Miami for a 7th round pick, and then Miami dumped him.
Yeah.
This is 2 years ago.
Yeah, he went out of the league very quickly. He just didn't want to practice, did he?
Arnett was released by the Chiefs after his arrest for having a
Gun.
deadly weapon.
Yeah. So, we know that Raiders team made some massive missteps. But it is easy to label people as a bust because their career hasn't worked out. And it seems very harsh, but also a lot of this is down to who else was drafted in that particular year.
Yeah.
Like you say, 2012... Yeah, there was a lot of dross that year. And I think the top of the 2013 round, you get Luke Jokel, who...
I almost put him in as well.
Yeah,
How close are we to saying Darnold's a bust?
Darnold is a
It's
bust.
got to be really
Darnold's
close.
already a bust.
You've already got Zach Wilson as a bust, haven't you?
Yeah, he will be. But Darnold's a bust. But more of a problem, right? You're prepared to label all these quarterbacks that haven't performed. Number 1 quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield, if he doesn't play a game this season, does that suddenly make him a bust? Because he's not been terrible.
He's like a Jameis, isn't he?
I don't know, is he?
Well, yeah, Jameis did okay, flatter to deceive, looked all right at the Bucks.
Mediocre.
Then we'll go and
Against
find
expectation.
another team.
Yeah.
We'll come back in for a season or 2. Mariota, all they're that's their level, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like I would say, that's the
Yeah,
that's the
I
Jameis
agree.
level.
But if Mariota had, let's say Mariota had gone to a championship game, right? Jameis would suddenly look a lot worse. And this is my point. So Darnold and Baker look worse because Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson have been brilliant.
Does this season not help? Because Atlanta could have got Baker.
Yeah.
They went with Mariota.
Yeah.
And, I know he's free, whereas Mayfield would have taken a pick. It's not going to be a very, high one because it's,
But I'd say they're similar players.
Similar standard.
He isn't a bust, Mayfield. Now, he isn't a bust 3 years down the line. But maybe 4 or 5 years down the line, as if Mayfield is still on a bench somewhere playing backup, the more it goes down, he becomes a bust.
And this is the same with Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah.
Mitchell Trubisky, not yet a bust. He gets a chance to resurrect his career. But 5 years from now, he could be labelled a bust. Because it's
2
different
years
for
from now,
quarterbacks.
it could be.
Yeah, it's different for quarterbacks. It just is. Paxton Lynch, that you mentioned, is a key example. Like, everyone thought, okay, this guy's going to get a chance to sit behind Peyton. He's going to learn. Look what they turned Osweiler, who, isn't a bust because he wasn't taken high enough. But let's be honest, as soon as he was cut loose out of Denver, he was a disaster. Don't forget that
Sam Bradford.
the Browns paid to get rid of him.
Brock Osweiler.
Do you know, Bradford was a bust until his last 2 or 3 seasons when he was at the Eagles.
Couldn't stay fit.
But
That
with
was
the
the problem.
Eagles, do you remember and the Vikings? All of a sudden, he was brilliant. So, that's the Trubisky thing here and the Baker thing. You get a chance to resurrect your career, so you can't call it too early. But someone like Manziel, that was it. Immediately, you're a bust because you're never resurrecting that.
So I'd like to give you an example of someone who I think definitely is a bust. Despite the fact they were picked in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4 overall, Clelin Ferrell.
Yeah, I've got him on the list.
Oh, yeah.
7.5 sacks.
Yeah, it's not what you were hoping for.
DeAndre Baker was that.
I was about to say, DeAndre Baker, sticking 2019, he was waived by the Giants after being arrested for armed robbery. It turns out that the charges were dropped because the witnesses were arrested for taking payment. He's back at the Chiefs. He could resurrect his career, but he also did fall asleep in team meetings and forgot the playbook, so basically was laughed out of New York. But he'd been such a star pick, because he hadn't had a touchdown scored on him for 2 years in college. But he got to the NFL and basically
Lights are too bright.
lights are too bright and hit the nothing on upstairs. I'm afraid.
I had number 3 from 2013, Deion Jordan.
Yep.
Deion Jordan, picked by Miami. He started 26 games. He started 1 game in his first 26 appearances and combined for 3 sacks over his first 2 seasons. He was then suspended for a year and then basically not played for a year by the Dolphins. That's 2 seasons out. He then went for 2 years at Seattle, starting a total of 3 games. A year at Oakland, where he didn't start any games, and a year at the 49ers in 2020, where he started 1 game. So far, and I'm guessing his career is probably over, since 2013, 3rd overall pick, 13.5 sacks. I've got almost that many since 2013. That is a draft bust by anybody's standard. That's almost a Vernon Golston. Remember him from a bit further back than this guy? I think that was 2008, where he came in as the leading college sacker with 25 sacks, and then he got 2 in 5 years or something. It was terrible. He didn't have any sacks in his first 3 years. So, yeah, it always depends on the position and who else is picked around them. EJ Manuel gets away with being a bad quarterback because there were no other quarterbacks taken in the first round that year.
I had him on my bust list.
Yeah, he was, but he gets away with it because there's no one to compare him to in the first round. The next quarterback taken was Geno, who's still in the league.
Yeah, but E.J. Manuel hasn't taken a snap since what?
Well, he's been out of the league for 2 years.
He's retired.
Yeah,
he's retired for 2 years.
Yeah,
effectively 3 years because he sat out 2018. So yeah, and I mean, there's no one to compare him to. He's a bust.
Yeah.
I know this goes outside of 10 years, but I have to tell the story because the more I researched it, the more I fell in love with it, which is Jamarcus Russell.
Oh, Jamarcus was amazing.
Yeah.
Jamarcus Russell, who they didn't feel like he was getting the game plans, so they'd send him home with DVDs of the game plan. They were sure he wasn't watching them, so they gave him blank DVDs. Asked him the next morning, what do you think of the plan? Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Got addicted to purple drank while he was playing for them.
So that's fucking mental.
Codeine syrup.
Yeah.
Went AWOL in team activities and fell asleep in meetings. And basically got to a point where none of those things there were the reason why they got rid of him in the end. It's just because he got so fat.
Yeah, he was massive.
He ate himself out of the starting quarterback.
He actually had tits.
And do you know who was taken after him?
No.
Calvin Johnson.
Calvin Johnson, wow.
The Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone that we haven't mentioned that we feel that we should have done?
Oh, there's so many.
There's so many.
Because and N'Keal Harry is going to be a
Calvin
bust.
Ridley might be.
John Ross.
He never comes back.
I'm betting on Calvin.
Calvin Ridley's got a good Calvin Ridley's got a good chance to resurrect his
John
career.
Ross.
John Ross, that's exactly who's on my list. John Ross, unfortunate, again, it's mainly injuries, but he was a one-trick pony as well, and if that trick suddenly doesn't work, then...
Just ran fast in the combine.
Yeah, pretty much all he did.
Okay, so then let's mix it up a little bit and go for some players that were undrafted, notable, successful undrafted players.
I had the day off today, so I could do a bit more research, and this struck me out as I was doing the research. It's the other side of the coin, isn't it? In terms of, the first round are meant to be brilliant. The undrafted, these are meant to be your squad players. You're meant to get lucky. But there are some absolute diamonds in the notable undrafted section. So starting in 2012, Justin Tucker.
Wow. Yeah.
We'll see ever done.
Yeah, exactly. Vontaze Burfict. Notable.
Noted arsehole.
Give Perfect his due, though. But he tackled so many people. People on his own team.
Filthy,
Incognito's the same, isn't he? He was an arsehole, but what a player.
What a great player. Cole Beasley. Kellen Moore and Case Keenum. Interesting. 2013, CJ Anderson.
Case Keenum's made a lot of money out of being undrafted.
Yeah.
CJ Anderson's earned a lot of respect.
and a lot of ham.
1,000.
Different player, but he probably has still eaten a lot of ham.
Well, now you mentioned it. CJ
CJ Ham.
was on this list as well. In 2016. Also in 2013, AJ Boye, Adam Thielen, Jack Doyle.
Adam Thielen, undrafted.
Adam
That's
Thielen,
mad,
yeah.
isn't it?
Absolutely nuts.
Somebody picked up left out ham.
2014, Shaquille Barrett.
Good player.
Great player. Won the Super Bowl with the Bucks. Willie Snead, Chris Boswell, Damian Williams, Malcolm Butler, and Trey Burton.
Wow.
These are Super Bowl winners. 2015, Lyle Collins. He had issues off the field. David Andrews was a centre for the Patriots. Good centre. Raheem Mostert. 2016, J.D. McKissick, Will Lutz, Geronimo Allison, Corey Littleton, C.J.
Because this
Ham.
not just proved that
and
it is
Robbie
a
Anderson.
massive man
it
lottery.
is. 2017, the year of the tight ends in the undrafted. Ricky Seals-Jones, Robert Tonyan, Mo Ali Cox.
RSJ.
Who else is there? Tim Patrick still playing now. Austin Eckler.
Austin Eckler.
Hoo Koo. Matt
Korean missile.
Korean Missile. Matt Breeder and Kendrick Bourne.
Breeder and Bourne left till last, thank you.
2018, Gus Edwards, Gus the Bus.
So you can kind of see why the Rams go,
Yeah,
this is just a lottery.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just a lottery. Let's just
a
get the
crapshoot.
best players we know that can play
Yeah.
and pick up some chances and see what happens.
Yeah.
Jaguars picked up Alan Lazard before they released him, and the Packers picked him
Oh,
up.
look at him now. Oh,
Yeah, J.C. Jackson, one of the highest paid cornerbacks in the league now. David
Not
Blau.
for us.
David Blau in 2019. Jacoby Myers.
David Blau.
say
Leave
notable?
it out. You were doing really well. David fucking
Notable.
Blau.
He's notable in this podcast.
His name again
2019
is
was the
David
year that the
Blau.
Patriots took. 2019, the year that Patriots took N'Keal Harry in the first round. They also took Jacoby Myers as an undrafted
as an
free
undrafted
agent.
prospect.
And now who's going to stay there? And then I've not done 2021, but 2020, Rodrigo Blankenship, James Robinson, Kendall Hilton.
Where's Philip Lindsay, by the way? He was undrafted, wasn't he?
Yeah, he
Sixth
was
round,
undrafted.
wasn't he?
Oh, was
No,
he sixth
he was
round?
undrafted.
Oh, yeah, I thought he was
He was
undrafted.
undrafted.
Yeah, he was just local, wasn't he? Local lad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you're right. It's an absolute.
And of course,
these are undrafted
you haven't got
players.
him there because it's way before our remit, but Antonio Gates was undrafted.
Yeah.
Where's Welker?
Where's Welker? Absolutely.
Harrison from the Steelers.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, there's some great players just
Like,
don't get picked.
Between what we've discussed today, there's like a second and all the way through to 7th round picks. Like, it's a crapshoot.
Okay. Right. Has anyone got anything to add before we close the podcast?
We can't mention any draft without talking about the 199th pick in 2000, can we?
No, we can.
All right,
This
cool.
is my podcast. We haven't mentioned him all game.
Who's that?
Who was that?
He who shall not be named.
Kirk Cousins.
Colin Kaepernick.
Yes, Cap.
Baltimore.
Quickly, I would like you to mention the teams that you have picked up for the draft for next week. So, yeah, everybody's getting their phones out now because I texted it all to them. So, next week it will be the Snap UK NFL draft. I will be back as commissioner. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
I might have my suit on if I remember to get it washed in time. We're back doing it in person for the first time after 2 years of doing it via Zoom, which was interesting. And everybody got a chance to pick their pots yesterday with the teams in.
Yeah.
Once again, I have tried very hard to make sure everybody's got an equal-ish number of teams. It didn't work out as an equal number of picks each. You've all got 8. For the first time on the draft on this show, which is our 5th draft, I think we're doing, somebody has consecutive picks from the off. Now, we've had it in the past where teams have traded and people have ended up with consecutive picks. But this year, the Chiefs, 29 and 30 they have in the first round. So there was no separating it because somebody has the Chiefs. I believe it's Gary.
Yep, it's me. So I have the Lions with the 2nd and the 32nd pick, the Vikings with the 12th pick, the Chargers with the 17th, the Patriots, which is always fun, with the 21st, the Bills with the 25th, and then the Chiefs with the 29th and 30th. And then I also have the Bears and the Colts, who do not have a first-round pick.
So we always throw those in case you wish to move yourself into the first round, which you could well do. Paul, what do you have?
So I have the Jets at 4 and 10. I have the Panthers at 6, the Ravens at 14, the Steelers at 20, the Cardinals at 23, the Titans at 26, and the Bengals at 31. I've also been given the Browns and the Niners, and I can tell you now, neither of those two are going to draft up.
I thought it seemed unlikely. James.
The Texans picking 3rd and 13th. The Falcons picking 8th. The Commies picking 11th. The Eagles at 15th and 18th. Goodbye, Jalen Hurts. The Packers 22nd and 28th. And my non-first round teams are the Broncos and the Raiders.
And that left John.
I have the Jags again at number 1.
It's very popular.
I
Are they
have.
staying at number 1 this year?
I'm always open for a trade. I don't have this year have to trade away the number 1 pick because I feel bad for Trevor Lawrence. But I might feel bad for Aiden Hutchinson. I don't know. We'll see. So I have the Giants at 5 and 7.
Chance to rebuild, John. Chance to rebuild.
Build back better, as someone's pointed out to me. Seahawks at 9. The Saints at 16 and 19. The Cowboys at 24 and the Bucks at 27. Plus, I also have the Dolphins if I want to trade their...
Back away.
I don't think they've got much this year, but do they have one next year?
They've got
That
one next year, yeah,
they'll
from the
win
49ers,
from the 49ers trade.
You can bring them in if you so wish. It just means that everybody's teams are represented. But yeah, so that's who you've all got. I have, in my little head, worked out a wonderful 3-way trade that I'm hoping you come up between yourselves, but I will refuse to influence this, so we'll just see if it happens. I'm not sure how you're going to play it out this year because, like Jim said earlier, very few star players, so I'm not expecting too much movement between you unless you get really creative.
It's one of our favourite nights of the year. We actually do proper research normally, and Griff is always mightily impressed with us, which is always like nice. It feels, makes you feel warm and glowing, But it's normally a good laugh, isn't it? We do enjoy it, and then we do look back. We've looked back today to see how well we've done.
Drafts, yeah.
And
I'm quite impressed by how accurate we are sometimes.
Well, even Paul.
Even Paul.
Paul says
Paul's potentially the most accurate out of all of us.
And Will Greer. And
Will
Hakeem
Greer.
Butler.
Kiki.
Kiki Cootie, yeah.
Turned out to be a decent player.
I mean, Paul got 2 right last year. He took Carl Pitts for the Falcons.
And Najee Harris.
Najee Harris for the Steelers.
So the 2 nailed-on picks from last year.
To be fair, it's not about...
Depends what happens before.
The important thing with our draft, and we stress this every year, this is not what we think will happen. It is what we would do.
You are the GM.
Yeah, so
You are the GM.
So the Lions may well take a different player than I will take.
Well, I would think so.
May well do.
I mean, you're a big Jared Goff fan, so I'm sure you won't be taking a quarterback.
Oh, he's just in the mould of Kirk Cousins, isn't he?
Very much so.
Okay, any more?
No.
Okay. Well, on that note, we've been the Snap UK. Thanks for listening.
Tom Brady.